My New Normal podcast. We are here at the Movement RX headquarters, super exciting, in a secret location in San Diego. And I am here with a very special guest, Sarah Rudder. And Sarah and I go way back. I'm very excited to have her on the show. She was one of the first adapted athletes I've worked with when I started my practice like 6 years ago. And, well, first, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, thank you.
We can't talk about the secret location where we are.
Okay.
But we're going to share a lot about Sarah's story and hear how she's kind of come to the place she is now, because she's definitely been through the ringer with challenges and adapting to, she's had many new normals, essentially. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about, my new normal is we can have phases of that in our life. Like, we can have a new normal after being a mom. We can have a new normal after getting a new leg, new normal after an injury. Like, it's when we don't accept this new phase we're in that we start to suffer more. And so Sarah has an incredible story. And I want to start off with a little icebreaker first before we get into how I met Sarah and all that good stuff. So just a little teaser, Sarah has a new leg, super sick. But I want to know your favorite exercise now with your new leg.
Honestly, most of the exercises that I do, I take it off. So I love to do ring muscle ups, some bar muscle ups, all the gymnastic movements, and I normally end up taking it off.
Nice, okay, so
but
awesome.
With it on, I like to snatch, because that is the most difficult movement, and for me it's more challenging.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I like to snatch too, and I know when I first met you, so when I first met Sarah, I met her, I was working I just started my practice in a CrossFit gym up in Temecula, CrossFit Temecula South, and I met you, former Marine too, so we saw eye to eye right away, sisters from the Marine Corps, but she was struggling with CRPS, which is chronic regional pain syndrome, and she'll probably go into the story of that, but we worked together, and it was that wasn't my first experience working with CRPS, but it was a more challenging case in the sense that there were some big decisions you had to make during the time I met you. And these big decisions, as a new PT, like listening to you make them, so she had struggled with this for a really long time, and it really, like, snatching was really hard. Yeah. Any squatting motion was really hard with her leg, but you couldn't see it. You couldn't see that injury because she looked normal. She didn't have a prosthetic at that time. She had her leg, but her leg wasn't functioning, and CRPS is not a very understood dysfunction yet. And it can happen post-surgery, it can happen post-trauma to a joint, but why it spreads and why it stays is still really, there's uncertainty about it. So the way they treat it is through nerve blocks. They treat it through psychotherapy, like any other injury. They can treat it with an amputation too, or just sensory training of the actual tissue and joint that's affected. And so with Sarah, she tried all of those other methods, and getting an amputation was kind of in the next decision, like, should I do this? And I remember as a new PT, I was like thinking, like, oh my gosh, this seems so extreme. But the more I thought about it and listened to you, like human relation skills, I was like, this makes so much sense, because if we can basically cut off the area, not me, a medical doctor that's good at that, then we can cut off the area, then the CRPS most likely won't spread, but we couldn't guarantee that. So, but it made sense, because we now being like working with Crossroads and Adaptive Athlete Alliance, Crossroads Adaptive Athlete Alliance, they had other individuals who would experience, not the same thing, but had amputations, and their life completely changed in terms of movement. So in my eyes as a PT, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, why go for the epidural again, or a nerve block, or just sensory training? We've already done that. We did that in my practice too. And so one of the best memories that was going on TV with you.
Oh, yeah.
The crazy anchor woman. Yeah. Well, I don't even remember what show. Oh, it was Union Tribune.
Yes, that's what it was.
So we were on this show talking about your condition, and then I was going to show a couple of drills to work that helps adaptive athletes, and I recall this lady wasn't prepared for this show. No. We were like, she's someone that like created the bun. I think it was this bun thing that makes your hair look perfect. And in the Marine Corps, you have to have like perfect looking hair. So you can't have all these like
the sock bun.
Yeah, so she like created one, and we were talking about that. But then we went straight into Sarah's story, and we were talking about CRPS and the challenges and what she was about to face. And Sarah was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get an amputation," and I was like, "Yeah, she's gonna get an amputation," and the lady was like,
her mouth,
huh? And so you just feel her like stuttering to like because to the to someone who doesn't understand this world, it's like things so extreme. But so that was a funny experience because afterwards she's like, "I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for this. Like that's crazy." And I remember even one of my PT professors heard that show and was like, "Why would you recommend that to an athlete? Like that is ridiculous. You're a first year PT. You're out of school 1 year and you're already like showing risky behavior, some shit." And I was just like, "Wow, this is crazy." Like, but how? So you got the amputation.
Oh yeah.
And that was a complete shift for you.
Yeah, it was a life changer.
So I am really excited to dive into the story because for me I just was so thankful that I didn't listen to my external world. The PT was like telling me like, "That's so risky, that's not right," and actually just pay attention to you. Mm-hmm. And it's been so cool to watch your story. I mean, even though I'm not in Temecula as much anymore, I'm mostly focusing down here and with travels, but like through the internet I can see you and the things you've been doing. It just seems like your life has blossomed in terms of movement.
Yes.
And that was quite the contrary when I met you.
Definitely. It was a struggle to go to the gym when you met me.
Yeah, and so what I want to know is, let's start. You have a family. You're here in Temecula. Like, what brought you here?
So, I have been married almost 17 years now to my husband, Marcus, and he is my rock and my caregiver. So, pretty much, I rely on him for everything. And then I have a 10-year-old son who thinks he's 21, and so he likes to tell me what he wants and what is good for him, but he's still learning. So he knows to go to Dad for that because I don't put up with that. So, Marcus was at his like halfway point in the military and was like, "Do we retire or do we get out?" And at that point, we looked for civilian jobs, and he got hired, and we're like, "We're out," because he would have gone on another 8 to 9 month deployment, and I had just had my son. So we got out, we moved cross country, and we moved to Temecula, and I wanted to go to the gym because I let myself go. Only because I was in so much pain all the time. So injury-wise, I had joined the Marine Corps when I was 16. I left for boot camp at 17. And after boot camp, I had gotten a small fracture in my foot, and I didn't even know. And so I had one little scope surgery, and that was healed. And I said, it still hurts. And he's like, no, you're fine. I'm like, no, it really still hurts. Something is wrong. And so I asked for a second opinion, and they sent me to Bethesda. And I was getting treated there. And I met Marcus during my treatment at a nightclub. Not typical story. We literally bumped heads and started laughing at each other. So 3 months later, we were married. And so from there, I was going to meet his family for the first time on Labor Day weekend, 2001. And on the way there, we were in a serious auto accident where we hit the center divider at 70 miles an hour head on because someone had cut us off and we fishtailed and hit. And I was lifeline to the hospital, and I got a broken nose, I broke my scapula, I fractured my rib, and I had brain injury. So I reported back to duty 3 days later, and within 10 days of the auto accident, I was being promoted to Lance Corporal. Still attached to the hospital, but I was staying really attached to headquarters Marine Corps, and then I'd have to go to Bethesda to get my treatment.
Yeah. For your TBI?
For everything. Yeah. So while I was there, I was getting promoted, and it happened to be September 11th, 2001. And we didn't know about the Twin Towers at the time because it was during my promotion ceremony. So no one had any TVs or anything up, so no one knew anything. And as soon as it was over, we stepped outside, and then you can hear the office going crazy, talking about it. And I go back to my room, set down my stuff, and my grandma calls. And I had just actually remembered this the other day, TBI, which is really weird. I can remember small stuff and forget a lot of stuff, but yeah. My grandma had called me on the phone, and she's like, "Did you see the Twin Towers?" I'm like, "I heard about it. I can't believe it." And then all of a sudden, there was a loud explosion noise, and I go running downstairs, and everyone's on the smoke deck, and we're talking, and we're like, "What the hell was that?" And we look up, and we look across, and the Pentagon is on fire, and we're literally just right down the road from them. So we're up the top of the hill looking down, and you could see everything. So at that second, we're trained to be Marines, so I ripped off my sling, and we ran to the Pentagon, and we started pulling people based on their injuries. We'd separate them onto tarps, and the ones that needed stitches and stuff like that, we'd put them in a van, and we'd transport them to our base gym, and they would get stitches and stuff like that by corpsmen who were in our gym waiting for them. And then that night I had to stand a 16-hour watch, full gear, because we didn't know what was going on or who was going to attack. We didn't know. And as soon as that watch was over, I went right back to the Pentagon, and the fire was out by then. And I was helping around with the firefighters, passing out equipment and passing out stuff. And then in the afternoon, they needed people to go back in to search for non-survivors and pull them out so that way they can pretty much have a service. So we went back in, and we were responsible for pulling non-survivors. And I stepped into a hole with the same ankle that I was getting treated at. And I was pulling someone, and I stepped into a hole, and the concrete came over the top, and I just ripped it out, and I kept going and carrying that person. And then for 24 hours, I was there, continuously pulling people. And then after that day was up, when I sat down for the first time, I was in so much pain. It finally hit, and I couldn't take my boot off. It was so swollen. And I just remember being in so much pain. So after that, shortly after that, within 3 months, they discharged me after the Pentagon. And they actually discharged me based solely on the fracture that I received just after boot camp and nothing else. So they didn't recognize PTSD, they didn't recognize TBI back then, so it was just the ankle.
What year was this?
2001.
Okay, 2001, that's right.
So they literally rated me just for the ankle. Since I had the leg still, they rated just the ankle. So I left on crutches, and after that I received numerous surgeries. Lots of scope surgeries. I've had my Achilles cut and lengthened. I've had cartilage taken from my knee and placed in my ankle. The problem with that is I had a small spiral fracture, but after going in, that spiral fracture started going all the way through my foot and up my bone to where the two bones meet. And nothing was holding it together. So it would constantly grind, and pieces of bone would be chipping off. So with that cartilage that they took from my knee to place in there, it lasted a whole month because the bones just ate it up again.
Yeah. Okay.
So the CRPS started to develop, which I didn't know what it was. I just felt burning on the inside arch of my foot. And I was telling PT, you know, I was just going, and she's like, well, it could be this, but I don't know. We tried the different sensories, using a sponge, using rice, hot water, cold water. I tried everything, and it stayed there for a while. And then it started going up, and I felt it in my ankle. And shortly after that, of feeling it in my ankle, my foot would start to like dislocate on its own, and it would just give out, or it would lock in place, or it would just be in so much pain that I couldn't put a shoe on my foot because the burning that I would get from the CRPS. So
it was this constant burning too.
Constant. I was in pain, so I would not work out at all. I would sit and I would still have that pain no matter what I did. Then I would go work out, saying maybe if I was more active it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
And that didn't work.
Yeah.
So I was in the same pain no matter what. And I was telling myself, you know what, if I'm going to be in this pain the rest of my life, I'm going to still do what I want. So I tried playing soccer to get that back and to get back into shape after having my son. And after about a year or so of that, the CPRS started spreading even more. And it got to the point to where putting a sock and a shoe on my foot every day was a struggle because it hurt so bad to have that on my foot. Right. So I felt it starting to go up my shin, and at that point I was scared. So I was like, if it spreads up my entire leg, I'm going to have no use of the left leg, and it's going to be so painful, I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah. And so I started going to CrossFit, and that's where I met you. And I was trying to learn how I could squat, because with the way that my ankle was and the mobility, I wasn't able to go into a full squat with the weight. So I remember that you'd taken the plate and you'd put it behind my left heel to where I could get stable, and I can feel like I'm stable on both legs, and I was able to squat perfectly. So I started thinking about more and more after I saw people with amputations that they were able to carry on in life. They were able to run, they were able to do everything. And in my mind was, if I get this amputation, my life is over. You know, and me thinking about that, calling my family and talking about it to them, they're like, oh my gosh, that's extreme, isn't it? And I was like, yes, it is, but I'm in so much pain, I don't know what to do. And the pain meds that I was on, the gabapentin, the Lyrica, all that, I was in the hospital more with that than I was with my ankle.
I remember it caused you a lot of just digestive issues too.
Yes. So I got IBS, I got kidney stones every 3 months, and I have my gallbladder taken out. But it took them 6 months to learn that needed to be taken out after me puking constantly every single night for months to say that it wasn't indigestion. So finally I got that taken out, and then I decided that's it. I went off medication, and I started thinking about the amputation and talking more and more. And I remember meeting this guy at the gym, and his name was Wally. And he's huge, like muscular, and
with healing, we all can experience pain unless we are on pain meds, or sometimes certain brain injuries will limit that area of our brain to be able to identify pain. But pain is there for a reason, to tell us there's a threat. So, and typically doing things like sensory training and breath work and movement with good movement patterns will eliminate that pain over time. And like just good mental conditioning, like finding better ways to cope. Because usually if you had pain around a trauma, it might manifest as more extreme than, let's say, you just fell off a curb. So we also have to know when we're treating people with pain, which is what I do, like when they got their pain and around what environment were they in. But for CRPS, the interesting thing is, I mean, you were in like a perfect storm of a pain prison, because not only were you in one of the most extreme situations anyone could ever be in terms of search and rescue, and just your own like fear of your own life in a way, but seeing what you saw and experiencing what the nation experienced at that time, being a Marine, plus your previous injury from the car accident, CRPS, doing breath work, doing movement, doing all the things you would do to cope with pain doesn't help it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for some people it may. Maybe for someone who wasn't in 9/11, who had one surgery and developed CRPS, perhaps sensory training, this other stuff may work. But for what you had, it was like a perfect storm of just like this pain prison.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally. And so I think you took a huge risk, but that's what it's like. On the other side of that fear, now you have this intense growth happening.
Yeah.
More than you probably ever imagined.
Yes. I'm actually more physically fit than I have been in my entire life.
Yeah.
Now. Because I feel like the challenge is what keeps me going. I think that it, not only for my body, but my mind too, because I'm constantly thinking about that movement and how hard I can push myself, how much I'm working my body. And that constant reminder in your head is gone. So even for me to get that hour of clarity each day, it is worth it.
Yeah. So now, in terms of challenges that you face, so plenty, I'm sure. So from just struggling with the decision to get the amputation, you had to become a master of your own condition, which is what I recommend to anyone out there who's been through a severe injury or any injury. Just learn about your injury, like learn about all of the possible ways to treat it, because your doctor might not necessarily be able to help you and give you all the information that you need to be successful or heal. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to be a master of your condition so you can go in with the right questions to help your doctor help you. And you definitely did that. Like, when you worked with me, you knew more about CRPS than I did from PT school. Yeah. So it forced me to go back, relearn, study, and then think of logically the best next steps. Which in the end it came down to amputation too, because listening to you, not based on what I read, but based on your need for activity again, and I guess just seeing other amputees or other people with amputations be super successful with similar stories, different reasons why they got their leg. But yeah, it's so the challenges. What was the challenge like? So, Veteran Administration System. What was, I mean, maybe you can just tell, because there's going to be a lot of veterans listening to this, like, how did you advocate for yourself in the VA before you got your leg?
Well, it took me 13 years, because for them it was like, it's still there. Let's do what we can, because if they cut it off, that means that they're giving up, pretty much. That's in their mind. So they're like, what medications can we use? What injections can we use? What electrodes can we use? And I did it all, and I wasn't about to go through the same process again. And so when I approached my doctor, it was at the point to where I was like, Doc, this is quality of life that we're talking about, and my quality of life right now is shit. And he just looked at me, he's like, no, I understand. Let's do it. And from that point on, I think it was 10 days after that, I had my surgery. And I remember waking up in the hospital and looking down, and yes, I had no leg, but I was like, I have no pain. And it was the greatest feeling ever. Yes, I just had my leg cut off, but I was like, wow. So it was an eye-opener for me in order to have that done. And I think with the VA, just constantly having to get stuck with one doctor that does not have the same views as you, that's where the challenge is with them. Mm-hmm. They have to realize that doctor, you're not stuck with that doctor. I want a second opinion. I want to go to this hospital. Refer me to this hospital. If you don't like what you're hearing and you know your body and you know what you're going through, you have to listen to it and listen to your body, listen to your mind, and go from there. Because if you sit back and continue to listen to the doctor and you're still suffering in pain, you're going nowhere.
Right. So you really have to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's important, both in any medical system. I mean, I'm in the Veteran Administration system, but I'm also working with a more concierge-based physician now who does hormone therapy, because the VA was like, why do you need to get your hormones checked?
Oh yeah, they don't.
And meanwhile, like, okay, previous trauma, like anyone who's had previous trauma or any kind of head injury or just even being an athlete or exposed to blasts, right, should be getting their hormones checked. Yeah. But the medical industry is so far behind the times. Like, I think in 20 years that will be a norm, but now it's not. Mm-hmm. And especially for women, so I've had to kind of pay out of pocket for this care. But I had to also learn to be a master of my own condition. Like, okay, this is what I need, and if I'm not going to get it here, then I have to find other sources. Yep. And in the VA, I've also learned, and for anyone listening, in any medical system, just like, you have to ask questions and inquire versus sit back and just hear what they say. I mean, I've been diagnosed with 5 different things for different issues, and none of them were correct. Yeah. But if I didn't keep asking questions, like, can I get a specialist to look at this because of this? Or we have a history of breast cancer in our family, so I need to get tested for the PRAC gene, and then I want to see a breast cancer specialist. If I don't ask for those things, they're not going to bring it up. No. Or if I don't ask for a mammogram, I'm young, they're not going to give it to me. There's no reason for them to. But I have to basically forcefully say, like, no, it's in my family. I will get tested.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a huge, benefit to you it has been a huge benefit to you for being that way. But so when we talk about like being adaptive and like adapting optimally, so that doesn't mean like people have these perfect lives and are happy all the time. Like, no. When I first met you, you came from a Marine Corps background, positive family environment, have a strong support system. Oh, yeah. And that is super crucial for the healing process. Yes. And but you were also, like, you explain in your story, like, Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. Like, you didn't shy away from when 9/11 happened, you just did your job and went in without question, to bring out, to see a scenario that's like extremely traumatizing, bring out bodies that were dead, bring out people who are alive in pain. So that doesn't ever leave you. Mm-hmm. So that determination, and your determination to want to be active, you struggled, you fought against it because of having pain, but you still did it. So now that you're post-amputation and have this new normal, essentially, yeah. All of those things that made up you, resilient, a go-getter, strong family support, didn't change. And so in thinking about and helping people understand what it takes to be resilient after an injury, it's like, go back to the past and how you reacted to the injury in the first place, or before the injury. Who were you? Yep. It doesn't really change. And you can still take those coping mechanisms, fitness, you can still be fit after an injury, clearly. Mm-hmm. You can still, rely on your family for support. Family members are usually the ones that are like a little bit more freaked out by the injury. But what I've found with the athletes that I've interviewed so far, it's like they have their support system. If they didn't have it before, they developed it after. Mm-hmm. But the way they were so determined before their injury didn't change, and it only helped them. Yep. So, besides functional fitness, let's just talk about, now that you're out of pain and you can train, like, what has that done for you mentally?
Everything. Because I've been able to wean off my medications because I realize how much they're hurting me, but also when I'm on the track, or if I'm on the track, in the gym, whatever it may be, I realize that when I'm in that moment of happiness, that there's nothing else bothering me. I don't feel pain. I don't feel remorse or anger or any of those feelings. I just am focused solely on that physical fitness aspect. So for me, I think having the support system was awesome. But I think after injury, I definitely became more determined, because it's showing that, yes, I was weak, and now I'm doing something about it. And now that I did something about it, what am I going to do from here? And so I don't have that excuse anymore of, I have that pain, I can't do that, or I can't do this. Now it's like, no, I got it, don't worry about it. Because I don't want to put myself back in that where everyone was taking care of me. And
right.
I want to show that I have this and I'm taking care of myself now.
You know, so when you say that, like, you're a hard charger, and like when I first met you, when, yes, people were taking care of you, and that's when someone's in pain or low, in a low place, and I've been mentally low, you kind of feel like a burden.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what you felt like a lot. Like,
oh, yeah.
You're always having to ask for help, but it still sounds like you were still getting up every day. And using grit to get you to the gym, to do your work, go to work, take care of your little one. Like, you didn't let go of those responsibilities. So I think there's that element. Yeah, we never want to go back to a place where we felt like a burden. But I think to people, what I've noticed when I'm out of a low period, people around me, like my husband, who's a rock to me, was I a burden? And he says no. It's like, it's the way we perceive it.
Yeah, definitely.
And so in my eyes, for you, like, or in other people out there, that struggle that you went through, gaining weight, feeling low, like feeling like there were people helping you, were still using grit to get up every day, do your job, take care of your little one, work out, even though it felt like you were probably going through mud, pain, pain mud, if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I've had to, so with perceptions wise, it's like people who are struggling out there who think they are a burden, and they're in a place where they are afraid to ask for help more, or afraid to like get out of their comfort zone and go into a gym because they're overweight post-injury or pre-injury or whatever. It's like, know that you're not. And I've had to like tell myself that. Know that you're not. It is really nice to not need help, but there are going to be times when we do. And the people that love you and that you surround, the good friends, I can count on one hand my good friends and family who will bend over backwards for me. And there are people that won't. But to know that you're not a burden, and that asking for help and doing something physical to get out of your head is super important, even if you have chronic pain. But I think for you, like, I noticed, even though you felt maybe like a burden, essentially what I'm trying to get down to is that people around you thought of you as a hero, and like an amazing woman, and I did not think that. But I know it can feel that way. Like, I think anyone in your shoes, that's a very real and raw feeling.
Yeah.
But you're a hero, and it's not because you're a Marine, honestly, or it's not because you're a Marine or an athlete. It's actually because you've taken ownership of your health. And like, on that day, you were all sorts of effed up.
Yeah.
But you were able to push that aside and go do your duty.
Yep. And you know, I always tell people that, you know, they're like, oh, you're doing so good. And yes, I'm doing good. But we do still have our moments. We still have our setbacks. And that's okay. Yeah. We just can't let it take over and consume us.
Right.
So I always say, you know, PTSD isn't curable, but it's manageable. And I manage in the gym. And I still have my triggers or things that can set me off, or just for instance, we tried to go to a concert last few weeks ago, and I made it halfway in before I felt like I was being crushed. So we had to leave. But again, that's how you deal with what you don't. You need to listen to your body, and you need to deal with what you need to deal with, but you also need to get over it.
Right.
Don't make one day turn into a week.
Right. So that's a really good point, because I definitely have over stupid crap. So what do you mentally, because you can through PTSD, some of the research I've done by this guy Peter Levine, who's got some good information out there, and good books. I think one of the books is The Unspoken Voice. You can help manage PTSD and help people with trauma through the physical body, because trauma's in the cells. Like that trauma you experience is always going to be in your cells.
Yeah.
So how do you calm it, basically soothe it? And that's why that's how I think of mobility. I actually, I could give a shit about range of motion. That's a true story. I give more shit about how much I'm doing self-care. But I'm like doing something for my body for once. But so you can help PTSD or trauma through the body, doing something physical, like physical fitness, or leaving the concert, doing breath work there, whatever it takes. Maybe you have to be there for whatever reason. So there's ways to manage it physically. But mentally, like, what are some things that you've been able to do that like help you get out of that downward spiral?
For me, it would be my son, because I don't want him seeing me laying up in bed for 3-4 days. He does understand, to an extent, a 10-year-old could, what PTSD is. He knows no screaming in the house, no loud noises, no banging, no constant noises, no trying to scare me, and he knows to tell his friends that too when they come over. So for him to have to adapt to me so young already, that was hard, but I need to adapt too to be a mom. So I need to tell myself every day that I need to do this for him, and he can't see me like this. Because it's up to the parents to put everything into their child to prepare them for the world. And if I'm in bed, how am I preparing him for the world? So that's one thing. And then another is every time I accomplish something or I push myself to do something, I put it on a wall outside my room. So every time I go outside of my room and I look at the wall, I'm like, well, I've done that. Why can't I do it today? So that's a little bit of a reminder to push myself every single day to get out of that funk. Sometimes you can't, and it's okay, but don't let that day last longer. So for me, physical fitness has been my release, because I think with me, I have a lot of anger in me still. And that anger from my PTSD is released partially through lifting and pushing myself. So I feel like I'm losing a little bit of the brick weight on my shoulders as I exit the gym. And every little weight off my shoulders throughout the day allows me to deflect some of the things that I would go a little bit overboard on.
You know, that's a good point. We're all going to have triggers, and sometimes daily, sometimes, I mean, I find breath work. I used to think meditation was a crock of shit, and then I started to do breath work, some meditation, but just deep breathing, because the monkey mind, I would find that I would go into these rumination and attach negative feelings to ruminate to triggers, and then it would just, a day would turn into a week, turn into a month. And while fitness helped me, I also found, being introverted, that like I could not be in a gym. I don't want to be in a gym around people during those times. So I would go outside and do my fitness instead. Okay, so based on neuropsychology, from what I've learned, is I like visualizations. It's like there are certain times a day emotions can be more like these triggers, these memories, because I have anger too, in my own ways, for my own things, and the flood of emotions and thoughts can come up in the morning, and then it can come at night too. So meditation and breath work has like helped kind of stabilize those and like not identify with them as much, and just that I have to constantly remind myself I am not that. Like I am not that thought. Like I don't need that to take away my energy for the day. I don't need that to have power over me. Like there's like a lot of self-talk that goes on. But the breath work, it's like they call it, the thing I do is called grounding in the moment, where literally physical fitness can be grounding. Should be. And everyone, no matter if you're what injury you have, should be doing physical functional fitness to some degree. Some with guidance, some with not, but like getting some activity in your day that makes you happy. Some activity that you used to be happy with, you should be doing, and just doing it, and then eventually it'll create motivation and happiness. Don't wait for motivation. Like, that's what I tell people. But that pattern interrupt of like, okay, I'm having a trigger and I know that my sleep is off. I have a 17-month-old. I know I have lots of things going on. So I'm going to sit and be quiet and work to breathe. Maybe it's just 4 minutes of deep breathing with a long exhale, like a 5 to 10 second exhale. And that will shift me going down this path of negativity and allow me to go a different direction. And so like my brain will eventually is able to say no to that process. So it's easier to get out of those triggers. Mm-hmm. And the trigger will still happen, but then I can deflect and like move on quicker. That's what I found for me. So breath work has been, and like soft tissue work, my own soft tissue work through mobility has been like my saving grace, and just the things I need before fitness, although fitness is very much part of my day. Mm-hmm. It's like when I wake up, I do the breath work, some self-mobilizations, maybe it's just on a hot spot, one thing. And that's been super helpful. But I think that everyone listening, so Americans struggle with getting enough exercise in any way, and especially with those who've had disabling injuries, can become adaptive. And I think of disabled as I can't, adaptive as I can. Taking on that, it's just a mindset shift. And so whether you're in a wheelchair or have a new limb or contemplating doing the same thing or have chronic pain, like physical fitness needs to be part of your day. And you're a prime example of that. And I think you've done a beautiful job of previous injury, not even injury, but previous amputation, post-amputation. To me, it's like, even though there are periods of depression,
because of pain, not to do something. And that should be a reason to do something, not an excuse not to do something.
Right.
So if you're in pain or you have a disability, I mean, I know people with 2 missing legs that go to the gym and work out. I think people are using their injuries as an excuse, and it needs to stop. And you need to realize that you can do this.
Right.
You can move. And we'll just find out what you can and can't do.
Right.
I mean, I might not be able to stand and hop on my left leg, but I can on my right.
Right.
So we adapt and overcome. And physical fitness has allowed me to manage my PTSD greatly by getting out that little bit of anger that I would have taken out on somebody else over something small.
Right.
And so for me, that is healing, and people still don't understand PTSD. And so when we're out and something occurs, they don't know how to react. For me, I did the deep breathing. When I was at the concert, I went into the restroom and I had to deep breathe. I'm like, I need to get myself out of here.
Yes.
So, and I have to do the same path that I came in. So I sat there and breathed and allowed myself to calm down before I came back out. But nobody knew how to approach me. They were all kind of scared in a way, like, why is she in here, like, bawling and breathing uncontrollably, sitting in the corner? And eventually one girl did come up to me and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I have PTSD. And she's like, oh. And she just took my arm and she guided me outside and took me out to fresh air, and my husband was there and we just worked on breathing and I was able to leave.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Adapting to injuries is extremely important. Don't let it rule you. Adapt.
Yeah. That's an important message. I know people with temporary injuries who have plantar fasciitis who like let themselves go.
Oh yeah.
And refuse to like go to the gym, or just not even the gym, but just like do the things that they normally would do. It's amazing how quickly an injury can shift your normal to maladaptation. Mm-hmm. Actually, and it's very easy to do. And I hope you all listening to this story get up and do something. It motivates you to do something. That's super important, because that, I'm sure, okay, so this trigger happened for you, and it's going to happen again.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But it's part of your life, but it doesn't rule your life.
No.
And that's a great mantra. It is part of my life, but it does not rule my life. I love doing mantras. Maybe each day it's a little bit different, but it's like, that will not have power over me. Stop. Or just, I even like say it out loud to myself. My husband thinks I'm crazy because I talk. And so, no, Sarah, this is awesome. There are pieces of your story I didn't know much about, and very honored to have you share it with us, because I know it will very much resonate with people listening. And we have all kinds of people that follow this movement, from business leaders to people with temporary wounds to permanent wounds. But the ability to get through what you did takes both grit and the choice to grow and latch onto things that are positive coping mechanisms, which is not addiction, and depression is a really common thing in our country, like more common than diabetes and cancer. So like, people need this regardless of permanent wound or not.
When I was in Sacramento, this just recently brought up a story. I was doing okay at the moment, but I seen a sailor, and you could tell he was not comfortable. He was having signs of PTSD coming out, and no one knew how to deal with it. I always start the day with a gym, always, because what you do first thing in the morning will set you for the rest of the day. So I go to the gym first thing in the morning, and then from then on, I allow myself to stay busy constantly, because I think once I sit, that's when you can think. And I don't want to think. I just want to keep going. So that's how I deal. So whether it's volunteering or with my TBI and PTSD, I've developed OCD. It's pretty extreme. So I end up going through and organizing and labeling and cleaning and anything to just
come to my house.
I love it. Anything to just keep me busy, to where I'm not sitting and thinking. I'm okay. So my new normal is just to keep going, and to take care of myself. I need to go to my appointments, because when I was working full time, I allowed that to get pushed to the side. And me not taking care of that, I think, made matters a lot worse. So medical appointments now are pretty important to me to continue to attend.
So during the day you keep yourself busy organizing. You're going to come over to my house and help with that. And then I like a neat house too. But
I volunteer to coach CrossFit kids whenever I can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I have a full gym in my garage for when I have bad days and I can't get to the gym. I have no excuse because I have one in the garage. Nice. And then I have like a group of 12 to 15 kids around the neighborhood, and I'll just send up. The parents know that I have PTSD because I allowed them to know. And I think that's an important thing too, is allow somebody to know. Don't hide it. Yes, right. I have PTSD. I'm not going to go get a gun and go crazy, but I'm just letting you know that I have it. And so when I have my bad days, I can't coach. So I'll send out a text that day or that evening saying I could coach or I can't coach, and then they know to come or not to come. So that helps me a lot too, is coaching the kids and allowing them to see that we don't allow disabilities to take advantage of us, so you can continue too as a child, knowing that we can overcome anything. Yeah. Well, when Magnus, so he's 17 months, but when he's old enough, and you're moving closer to us, I would love you to coach him. Oh, yeah. Awesome. That's awesome, Sarah. I'm just super impressed by you. And again, I think you are a warrior at heart and a hero. And the thing is, I think you, just hearing you, like, you believe that too. Like, this is, it's not, one of the things my dad taught me was, like, be your own hero. And that's a master of your condition, a master of your life. And you really, as hard as it's been,
it doesn't stop you.
No.
And that's incredible. People need to hear that message. So stay tuned for the next piece of this, the after show, which is, so Sarah, when we get into the next piece, I want you to share like all of these athletic escapades, because seated volleyball, we're going to be doing seated volleyball, because you're on the USA team, correct? Yeah, so we're going to learn about seated volleyball and all the cool tips. She's going to teach me how to do it. I played beach volleyball, but I could never played seated. This is going to be a whole new experience.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited. So stay tuned. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Keep moving.
Yes. Welcome to the after show with Sarah Rudder. Yep, we coordinated our wardrobes today. Black and red. Lululemon, yes. I approve.
Yes, yes.
So awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna be learning seated volleyball from Sarah, but Sarah is an incredible athlete, former Marine, an incredible athlete, and can you share with some of the cool events you've been to and things you've been up to with your new leg, your super leg?
So I've done 2 Warrior Games and
Colorado Springs.
I was the ambassador last year. It was Chicago, and then we did Virginia, and I can't remember the other location. And then I did Invictus Games, which is Prince Harry, and I have the symbol here on my arm. Yeah. And that was Orlando and Canada.
Nice. Okay. And then so what about teams wise?
So volleyball, seeded for Team USA, and then the Invictus team really is like a military Team USA, pretty much.
Okay.
And we compete. I competed in 9 events.
Okay. What were those 9 events?
So
that's not a lot.
I sprint, the 1 and 2. I row, shot put, discus, volleyball, and there was another one, and I forgot what it was. Powerlifting.
Oh, sick. Nice.
So, yeah.
Is that, so the powerlifting is just the bench press, right?
Just the bench press.
Yeah, I just was
with
taught
no
that.
legs.
I was taught that the other day, and I was like, holy shit, I'm weak with the, like,
Yes.
you can't move anything.
No. Your legs are literally strapped to the bench.
I felt very claustrophobic.
Yes.
I was like, if I had to like scream, I gotta get out of here. Like I didn't have a panic attack, but I was like, this is very different.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So seated volleyball. I play beach volleyball and I love it, but I've never experienced seated volleyball, and I'm sure many of you listening haven't either. So we're gonna learn some cool tricks from Sarah. And we weren't on the track today because totally kicked my ass with running. Have you gotten faster with the leg?
So I am actually ranked 10th fastest in the world.
Damn, okay. That's not too bad. That's really awesome.
And I've only been running 2 years and coaching myself.
It's awesome. So yeah, okay, so we're doing seated volleyball, and I want to get some running videos of you, though.
Okay.
We got to get you and Chianti out on the track.
I don't have the running leg on, though.
Well, not today, but
Yes.
we can, another time we'll get you guys together to do some running.
Yes.
And I'll see if I can keep up.
All right.
So, okay, let's do some seated volleyball.
So, since a lot of us have missing limbs, I just remove it.
Okay.
Normally you're on like a wood floor, so you could slide around.
Yeah.
But, so your ready position is your solid foot, your strong foot is gonna be up, and your other one is gonna be tucked.
Okay,
So
like
this one's tucked, yep, this one's up.
Okay.
So this is how you're gonna move across the floor.
Okay.
So you push this way, like this on your heel, that's how you move. And then to come back this way is the same. Dig in on your heel and pull. Yep,
Okay.
there you go. So that's how you move around on the court.
And you use your arms, obviously.
You use your arms and you use your heel.
Okay.
Yep. And then it's on a wood floor, so you'll get a little bit of movement, but let me tell you, this hurts your butt and your back so bad at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
Especially if you're just using one side.
Yes. And then so moving backwards, you're gonna do the same. You're gonna put the foot in front, hands back, and you're gonna pull.
Oh, okay, got it.
And
So
forward
bend.
is the same. You're gonna put your heel, yes.
Okay.
There
and
you
then
go.
going forward is
The same, yep, dig yourself in. Yep.
Okay.
So
and
now I want you to
coordination.
Yes. So I want you to try something so you can see how hard the movement is.
Yeah. Okay.
I want you to go as fast as you can, just to that line right there, to your left.
Okay. So that way.
Yep, that
All
line,
right.
and see how much it takes out of you. So both hands in the front.
Oh, both hands in the front. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there you go. Now go back.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a nice like stability exercise for your shoulders.
Yes. So we always put our hands in front because you always have to be ready to receive.
Right.
So receiving, you're going to put your foot up and your feet out in front.
Okay.
And your hands out in front, just in the normal receiving position. So
Okay.
when you're down here, normal volleyball, when you bump, you're going to kind of give it a little bit of a smack. But when you're in seated volleyball, it's not as high. So literally, you just put your platform out, and it's going to be just high enough.
Okay, so the net isn't as high.
So the net is a lot lower, depending on men's or women's. And you could touch the whole net. You could put your legs underneath the net, and you could literally kick the people out of the way. But you just can't touch the white tip on the net.
You can literally use your leg to kick.
Yes, you can literally go underneath the net and push off away from them if you need to.
You can't kick them.
You can if they're in the way.
Okay.
Yes. You'll see that a lot. I've had this stomped on quite a few times, and you will see stars when this is touched.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so people that don't know, there's nerve bundles.
Oh yeah.
And they have to put those nerves somewhere from the leg, so they bundle it either at the bottom or
Yes.
is it
So
on the
my
side?
nerves are all tied to the side right here.
Okay.
But if I get smacked in the bone in front, it sends a signal to here, and then it shocks my whole body. So
Sweet.
Yes. So I try to avoid putting this underneath the net at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'll have them try and untie your shoes or anything.
It's like combat volleyball.
Yes. So you can't touch. You can touch the net, but your fingers can't be in it. And the white tape at the top, you can't touch.
Okay.
So that's how you move.
Okay.
And then that's how you hit. And then serving. So serving, you're always going to put your strong leg behind, and then you're going to tuck your weaker leg.
Like this? So
Yep.
okay.
And then to serve.
Here, I got the ball.
Oh.
I should have just moved on the ground.
Thank you. So this is an awkward position to learn how to serve and to hit.
Yeah.
So when you're in this position to serve, you throw it up a little bit higher, and you're going to time it, and you're going to smack down the same way you would in beach volleyball, but you don't have as much movement.
Yeah.
So you have to learn your power and when to smack it and how hard to hit it, because the boundaries are a lot smaller, and you have 6 people on the court that are constantly moving. So you have to know exactly where to place it. So serving in this position is hard. So when you're serving, you're going up and smack down.
Nice. Okay.
But I didn't mean to hit it that hard.
It's all good.
But then when you're serving, you also have to get back in and move as quickly as you can. So the hardest part in seated volleyball is actually movement.
Thanks a lot, Chianti. Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, come over here.
So if I were to come over there, now that I know my movement, I could get there pretty quick.
Damn.
So
holy shit, Sarah.
This is all that we do is we work on movement. So that's hard. And same backwards.
Holy shit. That's fucking awesome.
You have to learn your movements constantly over and over, because the movement is actually the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at the ball, but you're thinking it's coming towards you, but you have to move your body with your whole torso in the position that you need in order to put it where you want.
So here, I'm gonna roll this to you. Not an elegant mover. Yeah, this is like way different, obviously, than standing. Like, this is a full body
Yes.
workout.
And your butt cannot come off the floor.
It's a slide the whole time.
Yes. Yes. So a lot of double amputees will try and get away with it because they'll have baggy shorts, and you really can't tell if they're doing this or not to hit the ball.
Interesting.
So If one cheek always has to be on the ground.
Right, okay.
So I can lean like this and touch as long as this is on the ground.
Okay.
But if I'm up here to hit, that doesn't count.
You have to have your, okay, interesting.
One cheek has to be on the ground at all times.
Can I try a serve to you?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this, so this is an exercise that we do for thoracic rotation. Like we'll have people stay here and do breathing. And actually, so right leg is back, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so we'll literally have people working on that. And so for seated volleyball players, they like really need that to save their shoulders.
Yep.
And learn how to rotate.
Yes.
Okay, so this almost feels like
unnatural.
It would be easier for me if I actually did it on the other side.
Try it.
So,
you'll know when you try it.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Let me try it with the other side then. See if
on the net, though, you have to remember, since it's so low, you have to get it high enough to go over the net. And then some people who play seated volleyball, there's a guy in Iran.
Yeah.
Seated, he's as tall as I am standing. So when he's at the net and he's got both hands up.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
He's a good blocker. He's your Carrie Walsh.
Yes.
Of the,
I think he's like 7'2".
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And not everyone in seated volleyball has an amputation, right?
No. It's amputation or nerve, like something with the nerve, or it has to be a certain percentage, and you actually have to see a doctor who will qualify you or disqualify you.
I see. Okay. Let me try the other, this side.
How did that one feel?
I mean,
so now the question is, if you serve from there and I hit the ball here,
yeah.
Movement, how are you gonna move?
So then I'm gonna go.
You're gonna have to rotate feet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then move here.
Mm-hmm. And then that, yep.
So it would be easier for me. Mm-hmm. So instead of going this way, yeah, okay, so I'll already be in the position. Yep. I just have to move this leg.
Yep.
So I can move faster. That's okay. Because I was gonna say, it feels more restricted rotating with this hip and internal rotation, just biomechanically. So I'm like, okay, you guys really have to have good thoracic mobility. Yes. This way would feel more open already, but if I have to move immediately, then no, it doesn't make sense.
As soon as you serve, you have to move at the same time.
Do you guys wear butt pads?
No. All that we wear is the bicycle spandex shorts, and then we wear like men's basketball shorts.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And that's it.
Can you, can we do a little bumping?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Remember, it's a lot harder from here.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Hey, you guys. Just playing a little seated volleyball. Oh my gosh, that is a cute baby.
Oh.
Okay, ready? So. Jesus. Oh my God, came out.
See?
Damn it.
You gotta move. That's the most important thing.
Jesus.
That's the hardest thing.
Oh. Oh my God.
And we have a lot of like volleyball players that came from standing to sitting, and you have to relearn everything.
Yeah. I would have a hard time getting my butt on the ground.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing is the movement.
Oh my gosh. Let's do one more round and then you guys have to try this. You have to. Okay, ready? Mm-hmm. Oh shit, already fucked up. Okay, don't move my ass.
All right,
nice. Oh man, okay. That's sick, okay. Sarah, that was awesome. Thank you. That was awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna play beach volleyball this weekend and get everyone on their asses trying to play. It's probably not gonna work out because the nets are too high, but if you haven't tried that, definitely take these tips and practice with a friend. That is a great like upper body warm up. Besides the butt sores that you might get, like that's awesome.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed this. Please tell us what you think, how you've applied this, if you practiced it, and share it with a friend who you think needs this. So thank you, Sarah.